Welcome to the First Customers Podcast. Today we've got Matt Leavell, the CEO of BuyLowWarehouse.com, a company that earned $1 million in their first year of business and also ranked in the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies in 2022. Matt, welcome to the show.
Man, I'm pleased to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, sir. So we've known each other for years, used to work together many moons ago. Feels like a past lifetime ago.
For sure.
So, and I know you've been involved with lots of businesses over the years before getting to Buy Low Warehouse. But let's start off with maybe getting a little bit of your perspective on how do you get those first customers for a business?
Yeah. Good question. It's always there's always a bunch of ideas, right? And it's like, what can I do? And you want to make sure that, or I want to make sure that whatever I do is sustainable. You know, one hit wonders don't build a business. When we were getting going, at least in Buy Low Warehouse, we were in an industry where you had to watch your back. You had to protect yourself. There were a bunch of scammers. There still are. We're trying to do something about it, but there are a bunch of scammers. I mean, horror stories of people wiring somebody $10,000. And then if they even got a truckload, it would, maybe it was a truckload of all melted chocolate or something. And they'd been saving their money for their whole life to take this risk, and somebody just screws them over. And
$10,000 it would cost.
Truck in our business, we sell truckloads. And so a truckload's going to range. I mean, you could get one down to $2,500, but I mean, average price is going to be $8,000 to $14,000, depending on what you're looking at.
Okay.
And so when we were kind of getting going, the biggest thing to me, and what people don't really know what I mean when I say this, but I built my business on selling trust. Everybody thought we were selling truckloads, but in reality, all we were selling was trust. Yeah. And as people started to get to know us and started to understand that we actually did what we said we were going to do, we weren't afraid to kill a sale, because if we learned that it wasn't the right thing for the customer, we weren't afraid to tell them, hey, I really don't think this is good for you. I'd rather not do it. I still have some people that remind me, you talked me out of buying from you the first time I called you, and then I knew I could trust you. Right. And
there you go.
Built a foundation for a long-term relationship with the customers, that they know that you have their best interest in heart. Because if your customers make money, they're going to come back. And if you have repeat customers, then you start to have a foundation to build a business upon. So I always joke when I say it, but I'm very serious. We built our business selling trust.
Awesome. That lines up with a lot of what we're hearing from different guests on the show. It seems like trust is a big part of everybody's, all the successful businesses, their sales process, and the long-term businesses that stay around. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I'll cut you off there, but
go ahead.
If you're new, right, what credentials do you have to stand on?
Right.
You have your past life, and the people in your past life, maybe a different industry or whatever, they may trust you, they may know you, but man, if you're trying to start something, you're in an industry and you're new, what are people looking at to say, okay, this is a risk that I'm willing to take? In some situations where maybe you're not requiring your customer to pay up front, okay, there's a little bit more safety factor. Maybe you can choose some payment methods where the customer does have recourse. In our business, man, it's primarily wire transfer. And we're talking big numbers, $10,000.
Yeah.
Sending you a wire, they have to really believe that they're going to get something back, and what they're supposed to get back as described. And so I think in a lot of scenarios, even if you are giving the customer recourse through their payment method or whatever, you gotta have some form of credentials that makes them say, okay, this is a good person to work with. I'm making a bet, because every time they buy something, they're making a bet that they're going to get as described. so that they can take it and follow through with it, whatever their plan is. Okay, I'm going to buy it for X percentage. I'm then going to turn around and resell it for X percentage and make Y margin. And that's their business model. And they're making a bet that you are a good partner to help them get there.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Let's pause on the current business and get a little perspective on how you learned that that's the way to grow a business, or that's the way to get those sales. So going back into your history a little bit, starting off, where'd you grow up? Did you have any childhood experiences doing sales or like door-to-door fundraisers, selling donuts or anything like that?
Man, first of all, dadgummit, Paris, like I've worked so hard not to try to deviate from buy low, and now you get me in a conversation, and that's the question you ask me. My personality, I love to squirrel. Well, we could do this, we could do that, we could do that. So it's always like I've really tried to narrow my focus as I've gotten older. But to your question, all right. So I was born and raised in Vicksburg, Mississippi. I loved the outdoors. I was in Boy Scouts growing up. So what we did with Boy Scouts was sell popcorn, and oh man, I sold the heck out of it. I would get on my bike and I would go door to door, man, and I'd knock out our neighborhood. I'd remember what houses people actually answered the door. So if they're like peeking in the windows and ignoring my knock, I was coming back. Right. I wasn't like just one hit wonder. They were here from me. And then I go to the next neighborhood and do the same thing. And I don't remember exactly where I ranked in the state of Mississippi, but I was way up there in popcorn sales. I don't know if that contributes to anything today, but kind of where I'm naturally wired. So started there, went to Mississippi State, graduated from Mississippi State. I was going to be a orthodontist was the goal.
Okay.
While I was in college, I started fishing bass tournaments, and I always loved to fish, and I was always competitive, so that was a perfect blend. And really got into it, started traveling with BASS all around the country fishing.
Wow.
And because I was a brilliant college student, decided that I didn't want to be an orthodontist or a dentist, because how could I fish these tournaments and travel all over if I had a dentistry practice to take care of? Yeah, man. You look at your history and realize, man, maybe I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. And then you kind of overlay that onto me today, and I'm like, all right, what decisions am I making today that I'm going to look at 20 years from now and be like, well, that was but decided that I wanted to fish, but I also was introduced to business. So the first business I got introduced to, I was in college, and growing up, like my friends' dads didn't own businesses or anything like that. So I was never really exposed to entrepreneurialism. I think I was naturally wired that way, but I never really had a role model or example.
Yeah.
So in college, someone asked me, a buddy of mine I played soccer with, was like, hey man, I got a guy coming to my house tonight, going to talk about this business. You interested? Sure, man, I'll be there. Showed up, and it was what is now, they've changed their name back to Amway. It was Amway, went to Quick Star, now Amway. So when I was involved, it was Quick Star. And man, that was my first, whether people have had positive or negative experiences or any experience at all, what that meant for me is it was the first time I got mentors from a business point of view. So I was introduced to books. I mean, heck, you can see behind me, I got all sorts of books.
Yeah.
And my wife is the one who color coordinated them. I'm not that creative, just saying. But I got bookshelves over here, there, over there, and I've read most of them. But that was my first introduction, to, hey, you can read books to improve various ways, whether it be, just your, maybe not personality, but how you interact with people, how you invest or business or just whatever. And that was really eye-opening to me. I remember I would sit in the front row of my chemistry class the teacher walking right up there talking, I'd just be reading a book, completely ignoring them. Like, it was so rude. I look back and I'm like, man, they wanted to hit me, but it was a new, new horizon for me. So,
what was one of the first books you think you read that was like handed down from the mentors?
The Magic of Thinking Big.
There we go.
David Schwartz, I think it is. Oh, where is it? Oh, I got it. Where are you?
The show notes.
Yeah, I think it's over there. Well, dadgummit, I can't believe I can't grab it because I definitely have it. Anyway, so the Magic.
Big.
Yeah, and then How to Get Rich by J. Paul Getty. Actually, I think that was the first one. How to Get Rich by J. Paul Getty. I still have that book too. Anyway, so I started reading these, and it just shaped me, as you can imagine, and it gave me a platform to practice some of the skills to try to improve. And so for me, I built a decent little organization. I was driving all over the Southeast. And thank goodness at that point, I'm sure my parents were helping me with, gas expense and stuff. I'm sure they were thoroughly upset. But they gave me the freedom to do that. And so went from that to then starting our, that's my puppy dog Biscuit. He comes to work with me every day. But I moved to, I graduated and I moved to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and started a marketing company. This was like right when the digital signage industry was fledgling industry. Like me and my business partner came up with the idea and started pursuing it, and then all of a sudden realized there was like this micro industry that we were part of and didn't even realize it. And so our idea was simple. We basically said, hey, there's waiting rooms around the city that we could go strike a deal with the owner of that waiting room where we could put a television screen and hook a DVD player to it. And then we could sell 30-second advertising loops on those screens. And so throughout Tuscaloosa, we built a network of about 20 or 30 waiting rooms and sold advertising. Then again, it comes back to the trust concept, because now you start having these advertising customers, right? And they were looking at you as a platform to advertise on. But then the questions would come, hey, Matt, do y'all design any marketing collateral? Do you do anything online? Can you help us with any of this stuff? And so, being young, it was like, sure, we're young, we're an entrepreneur, we know it all, right? Yeah, we'll help you. So we expanded. That's how you and I, of course, got connected, and we started doing some online stuff and really doing some innovative stuff there. I just don't think. Looking back, I think a lot of the failure of that company was on me. I don't think I was a great leader. I wasn't mature enough. I didn't really understand enough.
I think we were actually early on some stuff because we were trying to do social media marketing before everybody was even comfortable with that.
Absolutely. We were building custom business Facebook pages for like local companies, when the only other companies who had that was like Coca-Cola, Budweiser.
Yeah, it was way early.
Yeah, we were early. But I also think where I messed up is I wasn't targeting big enough customers. Like, I should have been knocking on the doors of Coca-Cola or those people. And I don't know if
it was still kind of local.
Yeah, I was focusing locally. I think it was probably some of just a self-limiting belief. Like, who am I to have something to offer to Coca-Cola? Which, in reality, looking back, we had a lot. And had we just, had I understood that, because I guess what the audience doesn't know is, we kind of started the company, but I was acting as the main salesperson. Right. And so it was really up to me on who are we going for and going after. And, I was a little young and naive there. I didn't understand the value. So I guess to pull a business principle out of that is, if you're young and you're starting out, you need to understand the value proposition that you have to offer. and
Right.
do some research to understand who your competitors are, what kind of value proposition are they offering you, or are they offering the customers? How do you compare? Because man, you might have like something really special and just do a self-limiting belief, not realize it.
Right. Because that was at least 12 years ago, I think now, or
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
Um,
I'll tell you another lesson I learned out of that company. This is kind of one of the lessons that I think eventually killed the company. Was well, there were two things, but one was um, me and my business partner, like our payroll was based on our ownership percentage. That's the most horrible idea in the world because my
instead of
partner,
what your operational role was.
exactly, like it's
Yeah.
cool to get paid if you're going to take a distribution based upon ownership, that's fine, but your pay rate needs to be based on your operational role.
Yeah.
And so what we did by doing that is my business partner was 66%, I was 33, and so he was always getting paid double but wasn't putting that work in. Now, if listens to this, I'm not speaking negatively about him, please, like don't let anybody. We were both young, we were both naive in that regard, and we've talked about it since then. And I mean, we just made some mistakes, man, and so no one's at fault. But what happened is we drained the company of all the money, so it had no operating capital to grow with. So if you're young and you're starting to have some success, you gotta realize, leave as much of that money in the company as you can, because that's your fuel. That's what powers your rocket. Like, you might be growing good now. Take what it's costing you to grow well right now and multiply that by 3, and that's how that's what you need to figure out, like what kind of cash you need to have in your company to continue that growth, right?
Yeah. And
So
how did you guys get the first screen advertising clients?
man, not smiling and dialing, smiling and knocking. um
Just going to
we
the businesses and talking to them.
had one flat screen in one business. I sat there one day and counted the number of customers. And then after I did that, I kind of got smart and realized, well, why don't I just go ask the receptionist how many appointments I have every day? Um, so in truth be told, I think part of it was there were some cute girls who worked there. Um,
You're just scoping out the landscape.
but either way, I got the data I needed. Um, and once we knew about what the monthly flow of customers were, I just started going to local companies around that business. So we were on the south side of Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa is not that big at all, but it kind of, if you live on the south side, you're going to do the majority of your business on the south side, or buying, I guess. And so when I would go into those other, I'd go into the local Mexican restaurant. I went into the local dentist. I went into the local chiropractor. And really what I tried to do, to answer your question, is I thought about, okay, who else from a proximity standpoint could stand to benefit to get their business in front of these people that were sitting waiting, nothing else to do, and try to create some sort of loose personal connection. Like, you think about it, like dentists are a dime a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you choose your dentist? It's either a recommendation or you just saw an ad.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it. You went, they were nice, they made you smile, your teeth were shiny when you left, you go back.
Right.
So it's like, what really drove that? And so really all we were doing was saying, hey, we got people literally a quarter of a mile down the street sitting, having nothing to do, and I can put you in front of them. And
That was still a time where everybody didn't have a cell phone like yet. I mean, the cell phones, what came out, the type we have now, the smartphones was 2007, but you guys were right around there to where they weren't everywhere yet.
we're talking 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
And so that's really what we did. Now, with that, we ended up growing that network to more businesses, and so then another lesson I learned. I don't know why I'm on the lesson train right now.
That's what it's about.
Yeah, another lesson I learned in that scenario is, and this has served me well even into my today business, is just because someone tells you if you had X, I would buy it, doesn't mean that when you have X, they will buy it.
Mm.
Like everybody loves to say they're going to buy everything in the world until they actually have the opportunity to buy it, and then they get cold feet and they don't do it. So why did I say that, right? So I grew this network. We ended up having, I don't know, 20, 30 screens around Tuscaloosa. And there were people I'd go and visit, and they're like, man, if I could just be on every screen for like $350 a month, I'd do it. And I'm like, well, I mean, we're at 600, so I don't know. Well, finally, I heard that enough. I said, all right, I got 40 people out here saying they'll do it. I calculated some quick revenue. I'm going to give them what they want. So I went back to every one of those people. And I was like, hey, gotcha. Here you go. And offered them the deal. I probably picked up only 4 of the 30 or 40 people. And then, so I learned most of them were full of crap. And then and then I learned that's more just human nature. It wasn't them in particular. It's just most humans. But then the problem is, because it was now kind of known that we were cheaper, my customers that were paying a higher rate, we were in such a small geographic region, I was scared for them to find out that they were paying double than someone else. So out of my conscience, I dropped their price. It ended up costing my business revenue rather than growing the revenue. So learned that lesson. And the only other thing that really kind of got us to a point where where that business didn't work out was we couldn't deliver the deliverables for the time estimates we quoted. We just kept blowing timelines, and that's simple math, man. It just eventually doesn't work. In the scenario of shutting that business down, I learned a lesson that actually saved Buy Low Warehouse, which is my current business. And I just, me personally, I'm very loyal. I always have been. It's just I don't know how else to operate. Whether that's loyalty to I think that's what was driving me dropping the price on my existing customers, just being loyal to my network. And I was that way with our team that we had at that point. Or at least tried to be to the best of my ability. And so we were on a sinking ship, but I didn't want to let anybody go. And I mean, part of that was just me personally wanting to avoid that conversation. But I mean, there were other owners of the company. Other people could have had those conversations, but for whatever reason, people were looking at me to do it. And I didn't want to do that. And so I just thought like magically we were going to find a genie or something, and they were going to grant just 3 wishes and the business would be successful. But that didn't happen. So what I learned is, hey man, that hard conversation that you didn't want to have, it actually happened anyway. Yeah. So I wasn't going to escape the hard conversation. The only difference is, because I wasn't proactive about it when it actually happened, like there were no other options and there was not another day left. Like I couldn't even say, hey guys, and I'll leave their names out. But, I remember delivering the news and they started crying and they were like, can we not do something? I'm like, no, today's the last day. Like we don't have the money to do another 2 weeks. Like, so I botched that, man. Wow. I didn't handle it well at all. But what I did learn from that lesson is, and we can talk about it if we want to, but Buy Low Warehouse, in our journey, we were on the Inc. 5000. That's great. But in the middle of growing it, we had to completely scrap and shift business models. Really? And in that process, literally, we were so close to going bankrupt. And, whether we'd actually filed or not, I again, the loyalty bone, I probably never would have filed. I probably would have just gone and gotten another job and paid on the debt for another 15 years. Yeah. But most definitely it was there. I mean, I don't know what we're in 2023. So probably 2020 or the Christmas of 2019 or the Christmas of 2020.
Yeah.
It was like things were going great up until about October. And then all of a sudden I was like, where's all my cash?
Dang.
Like, I had no cash in the business. Our sales were good. We had a lot of product on the shelves, but we had no cash. And I started to dig into what was going on. And essentially we were selling all our high priced in demand stuff. And because we were ramping up fast, it made it look like our sales were increasing. But that's only because we were processing more product. Like in a given last month, we may have processed $500,000 of product. This month we processed 700,000. Next month we processed 900,000. So because we were growing in what we were processing, there was more of the in-demand items on the shelves to sell. So it made our sales look like they were increasing in reality. And so we thought, hey, we have a thriving business, and we were making purchasing decisions off of that, hiring decisions, all that. In reality, what was happening is, we were selling. I mean, those numbers weren't a lie, but what was hidden was there was about out of all the high price stuff that was in demand that was on the shelf, there was a lot of lower price stuff that people just didn't really want, that we were eventually going to have to discount to the point where we were taking a loss. So we were looking at the profitability of the company, but all this stuff that we were eventually going to take a loss on, that was like a deferred loss, and it wasn't balancing out the profit. Does that make sense?
A little bit. Maybe this would be a good time to back up and tell kind of a little bit about what Buy Low Warehouse is and how that business model works.
Well, in short,
started,
it almost created our company. I mean,
right.
It did that business model. I still remember like telling my wife, man, we can't buy a Christmas tree this year. I mean, a Christmas tree is $70, and I was like, we can't do it. And I am not ashamed to say, I mean, I had to do unemployment for a while, and it all coincided with coronavirus, right? So none of it really helped, but I had to do that for a while. I remember sitting in the living room, kind of curled up in a ball, just crying, like,
dang,
what happened? I mean, that's all like paradigm shift in 2 months.
Wow.
And so the lesson learned is the only reason I didn't hit bankruptcy in this is because when I first got the bad news, there were a few people that I was iffy about on our team. And the day I got the news, I remembered the marketing where I didn't let people go fast enough. I called people into the office and let them go that day. I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew something was wrong. And so, sorry, I'm kind of rambling.
No, that's good.
Trying to bring that.
That's good to tie it together. And so was it a matter of like just misunderstanding or miscalculating on the accounting side and having like an accountant or somebody go deep with you and explain the dynamics of that? Or was it you having to go deep and understand it?
Man, I was told when I got started, to explain a little bit more about what we did, you said there, Buy Low Warehouse, we started as 100% selling on eBay. So we're in the liquidation industry. We would buy liquidation product, customer returns, and then we would take those customer returns and we would basically take one by one, take pictures, assess whether they work, whether they have all their parts, all that, list them on eBay, sell them. We were receiving 18-wheelers full of product doing this. We had a staff of probably, I forget at this point, but let's say 14 product specialists, which all they were doing all day was processing and posting product.
So did you say how that started? Like, did you have to just buy a truck and take pictures yourself and like?
Well, so let me finish talking about financials and then I'll get to that.
Okay.
That's actually pretty fun. If anybody is thinking about it, the answer is yes, your bathroom can be a photo station. I'll get to that. But your wife won't like it. So when I got started, I had a guy who had been in the industry a long time say, he told me to watch out for this, but I didn't understand what he was telling me. Like, he didn't explain it. And he said, and I mean, they had grown a massive company, sold out to private equity. I mean, Big deal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with eBay also. And he said, look, what we eventually did is if an item sat on our shelf for more than like 60 days, I think, at day 60, they basically booked their cost in that product. They wrote it off and took it as a loss. Okay, so what does that do to your financials? You still got this product on your shelf, but you basically just wrote it off as if you no longer have it and it was a complete loss, no revenue to counteract that. What they were doing and what he was trying to tell me to do was saying, look, if you're growing, your sales are going to be increasing. You got to match those increasing sales with the product you're eventually going to lose money on to balance out so you can make good decisions. So your profit doesn't show $50,000 this week. You balance it out with a $40,000 loss. So now you're at a $10,000 profit. Now you're making decisions off of only a $10,000 profit versus a $50,000. Now they still had that item. So once they sold it, they book it as revenue. They already had taken the cost, the loss. So then it was just pure revenue that hit their P&L. But what it did is it balanced out their books for them. Yeah. And he told me this, and I really I didn't understand what he was saying.
Yeah.
Man, if you're talking to somebody experienced in an industry and you're getting started, you don't understand what they say, don't be afraid to ask for clarity, because gosh dang it, that would have saved me so much heartache. So that's kind of, I was told about it. But
okay.
No, how makes more sense. How did we get started with Bilo, right? I actually was in a business group with a guy, and he actually had a store that they call them bin stores. Basically, it's
a business group, like a mastermind, or
like a mastermind. It's called Vistage. It's an international organization, and we're members of it. Anyway, so he was in the business, and he had what they call bin stores, where it's a concept where you walk in and it's just bins of random product, and you just dig through. And if you're there on their restock day where they've put new product in, you're paying like $5 for anything. Whatever you grab, it's $5. Or, some people might be $7 or $9 or whatever, but it's a flat price. Whatever you grab is that price. Then the next day, so let's say it was $5. The next day, everything's $4. The next day, everything's $3. The next day, 2, 1 gets to 50 cents. And then they restock, and it all goes back to $5, and the cycle starts over. Huh. Well, so he was in this business and had some stores doing really well. The problem is you can't make your numbers, like you can't buy a truckload, and if you're paying on a percentage of retail value of that truckload, you can't take the $4,000 night vision scope and throw it in your bins and sell it for $5 and make a profit on that truck. So what do you do with that? Well, what they were doing is they were running it through eBay, but they were getting really tired of eBay. They didn't want to do it. And I was in property management at this time. That's what brought me to Nashville. And I was in property management. It was our first acquisition of another property management company. And it was my responsibility to move up here and integrate it into the portfolio. And man, that was probably one of the hardest things I ever did. We made some dumb mistakes or dumb decisions in how we tried to do that. And it just caused a bunch of stress. And so I was at a point where I was like, dude, I need something different. I cannot continue with this stress. It will not be healthy. I'll have a heart attack before 40. And so I bought some of the high price stuff from him and came home and was like, I wasn't even thinking about a business, man. I came home and I told my wife, her name's Samantha, I call her Sam. I was like, Sam, look what I got. And I had this like paper, printer paper box of like, I don't know, 15 items or something. And one was like a knockoff GoPro and, some other, a speaker or whatever. And she's like, that's great. What are you going to do with that stuff? And I'm like, I don't know, but it was all $5. So I figured, why not buy it? Like, I mean, heck, it's $5. She said, Matt, you're not going to do anything. Like, what are you doing? I said, all right, whatever. I'll just throw it on eBay. I'll just sell it. And so I hopped on eBay, listed it, sold it, made like $300.
Dang.
Well, while I was there, they were telling me about a new program they were launching called Small Boxes or something. Let's call it Small Boxes. And anyway, it was where they would have a box of product and there might be 15 items in it, and I would get an Excel manifest with the items, the UPC, and what the retail value was that was in the box. And I said, wait a minute, see, I can get the box, I know what's in it, and you'll give me that Excel manifest. They said, yeah. Well, the minute they said that, my wheels started turning because I've utilized remote team members before. And so I was like, dude, if I get an Excel sheet, I can upload it to a Google folder. Somebody in India or wherever they are can log in at night, get that, build out the draft listings in eBay, do all the research to put the information in. The next day, I can take pictures of the product and add it to the draft listing, post it as live, and there we go. Like, it could be a side hustle.
Yeah.
I whipped out those processes probably in a couple days and got it built out and went and bought some boxes and sold them within a week. And so then went and bought more. And
do you get a guaranteed price so you know what the items are, so you can know if your price is going to be profitable, right? Because you can research the products before you buy it. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, in all reality, those programs exist today, and they can work if somebody is, based out of their house or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to build a business, like the numbers just won't work if you're trying to do it in volume. And we learned that lesson. But it's kind of funny because, I started buying more and more, and so the next thing I knew, I was still working in property management, and I was very diligent to make sure that my side hustle never took time away from my employer. Like that just, remember the whole loyalty thing. That's not right. If he's paying me to do a job, I need to do that job. And when he's paying me now in my spare time, fair game. I can do what I want to in my spare time.
Right.
But it was getting to a point where I couldn't come home and take pictures every night. I had kids. I had just had a newborn baby that was colicky. And oh my gosh, if anybody has a colicky baby, I feel for you right now, but don't worry, you'll get past it.
Yeah.
So I did what any natural human being would do. I asked our babysitter, hey, I already trust you being in our house when I'm gone. So how about you come in during the day and take pictures of product and I'll pay you for that.
Nice.
That he had just graduated from college. He actually was the nephew of a guy I worked with at the property management company. He is still with us and my right-hand man today.
Wow.
But he was like, all right. He was thinking about going to PT school. So next thing you know, he's coming into our house. So we grew that to, we had shelving set up. We took over the garage, we took over the playroom, and took over another room in the house and had shelving set up and probably had, I don't know, $150,000 worth of product at any given time.
Wow.
In the house. We had 7 people showing up every day, taking pictures. And that's where I learned photo station or bathroom sinks where you got the lighting right above. You just got to put daylight bulbs in and you can create a photo station. And so finally my wife said, you got to do something different. So we moved to a warehouse and started doing it there. But that's how Bilo got started, man. And then we went through what we went through, almost shut the business down.
Yeah.
But honestly, I mean, we saw the virus coming and didn't want to be in a warehouse at that point, but also thought, man, that things aren't going real hot. So it's probably not a bad idea to move out. So we moved out of the warehouse. And then, I mean, coronavirus came along and really there was no one that was going to hire me anyway. So then I just put my head down and said, how do I figure out how to get customers? Because it was a new business to sell by the truckload. I was buying by the truckload, so I know where to get some of this stuff. So how do I now sell by the truckload? And so I decided to start some Facebook groups And fast forward to today, those Facebook groups reach probably over 250,000 members. They're some of the largest groups in our industry. And that became a platform for truckload sales. You know, when we first started the groups, nobody was in them. But I told myself every day I'm going to make a post of truckloads available every day. And, you know, pretty soon there was another member, and then there was another member, and then there was another member. And then we eventually sold our first truck. And we sold our first truck 1 month. This is probably 7 months into working on it every day full time. Sold the first truck. Next month we sold 3 trucks. The month after that we sold like 36.
So now you're selling to people who are wanting to kind of do a similar business of where you started.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They were buying truckloads. A lot of them sold by the pallet. So they'd receive the truckload into their warehouse, put a price tag on every pallet, and sell by the pallet. The people who would buy the pallets would sell on Facebook Marketplace, sell on eBay, sell on garage sales, flea markets, all sorts of stuff. A lot of them may have been mom and pop stores that have 1 to 3 discount liquidation stores. A lot of them had bin stores, like I was talking about before. Some exporters. I mean, just all sorts of people.
And what was I may have got distracted because my dog ran in here a second ago, but what was the switch in business model that you had to make specifically? Because before you were the one processing everything and selling it directly.
Selling everything on eBay. And,
right.
And we dabbled in selling by the pallet. We dabbled in selling as a percentage of retail by the piece out of our warehouse. We dabbled in having a bin store in our warehouse.
Okay.
But the shift in business model was just selling by truckload only.
Oh, okay.
So any customers we had, we no longer were selling to because none of them were buying a full truck.
Right.
And so that was the shift, 100% truckloads.
Wow. And so that's still the focus is 100% truckload.
Well, yes and no. You're going to get me, when is this going to air? You're going to get me divulging some information.
No, you don't have to give anything sensitive out, of course.
I'll give you some good stuff. So yes, it is. However, we are expanding on the idea. We have always had kind of a software development side. Like I told you, I like squirrel, right? I like to see objects and go after them. So when we were in our warehouse, we were selling on eBay. We had a software, and we were paying that software company $1,200 a month to allow us to sell omni-channel, which omni-channel means to sell on multiple marketplaces at once. And if the item sells on one, it takes it off all the others so you don't oversell your inventory. Well, I wasn't really happy with, number one, paying them the money, but number two, all the research we had to do. And I just was like, man, there is no way that all this research, like item description, stock photography, item specifics, UPC code, like all this junk has to be online somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, I was into working with remote team members. And so I was like, you know what? I got our lead developer from when we had the marketing company days. And I said, if I can just get him to like look at what someone like to hire someone on Upwork and just get him to help me hire somebody and say, yeah, they know what they're talking about. I can then manage that person to build just a simple tool so that we don't have to do all this research. And so I reached out to him and he said, you know what? There's a guy that is in Tuscaloosa, super trustworthy. He actually just left where he was working. Needs to be at home with his wife. I think he'd be perfect for it. He'll be a little bit more expensive, but perfect. He can do what you want. All right, cool. That's fine. So brought him on board. He still works with us today. His role's a little different, but still works with us today. And we started building the software. So we built a software out that integrates with eBay, Amazon, ShipStation, Shopify. We started integrating with Facebook. We never fully completed. What else does it integrates with? Bonanza, maybe one or two others. And so we built our own omni-channel software. We could get shipping pick lists when items sold. It managed the warehouse with where every item was stored. It managed all our photos. We were operating our business through our own homegrown software. Now there was no beautiful UI because we didn't need that. But we built it. And so I say that. So yeah, truckloads are the focus, but we haven't lost our software development. So now we are in the final stages of building out an entire suite of management tools for selling in our industry. There's no other tool that we know that focuses on selling in our industry, anywhere from full truckloads to pallets to box lots to individual items. And being able to manage the inventory, being able to sync with the major marketplaces, being able to network with other sellers that utilize.
When you say sync with the marketplaces, you mean like integrate the product feeds and they automatically distribute to the store you've set up on whatever marketplace?
Whether it's your website's just a sales channel. Yeah. So whether it's your website, eBay, Amazon, Bonanza.
That's awesome.
We haven't integrated with Macari, but if we can, we will. Some of these other platforms works with a lot of the marketing. It integrates your marketing with it. Awesome. It's pretty advanced. I did some math, figured it would cost me, so much money, and we're way past that. Never realized that software development costs this much.
Yeah. It can be infinite.
Oh my gosh. It's no joke. But we're at we have a team of developers, I think it's probably 7-8 people now. And it's its own little business within our business. But we're about to launch our initial, I'd call it an MVP, but it is so far past an MVP. It's not even funny. Like, we read the MVP book and said, yeah, we're going to go the complete opposite direction. Let's just build everything. It's probably the dumbest thing in the world. Anybody listening to this who's in SaaS knows that that's probably dumb. But
it seems like your other business is fueling it, though, right? Like, you're not having to depend on the software for the revenue.
That's exactly right. What we're building, whether anybody else decides to use it or not, we're going to use it. And it's going to give us efficiency. It's going to help us sell more. It's going to help us network with other sellers and competitors. They are our competitors, but we still work together, right? And it's going to help us network with them to where everybody can benefit and sell more. So whether other people want to use it or not as a paid subscription or however we decide to charge for it, I really don't care.
Yeah.
Because we're paying for it with cash. We don't have an investor. We haven't had to take money out, and we're going to be able to use it for us.
Awesome.
So that's going to diversify our business quite a bit and really separate us. I mean, that's we have a lot of eggs in that basket.
Yeah.
And
is this something that the truckload customers would use as well, so you can upsell them to the software?
Absolutely. So One of the challenges in our industry is, like, if you're a buyer, from a buyer side, is finding the inventory you need.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you find it? And I mean, currently, one of the main ways is you'll go to our Facebook groups and you start scrolling through the post and, okay, I found it, and it's $11,000. Scroll a little bit further and all of a sudden you find the same thing for $10,000. Scroll a little bit further and you find the same thing for $14,000.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, there's no curation here. So yeah, one of our value props to the buyer side is to be able to not only help them find that in a searchable database, but to like let them know when it's uploaded. So if I say I'm looking for apparel, well, if I just in my user profile say I'm looking for apparel in this part of the country, then when apparel in that part of the country is uploaded to the system, I get a notification. So yeah, it's one small piece of what we're trying together, but the power behind that could be huge, especially in our industry. So we're looking at doing that. I've kind of been anti-warehouse since we've moved out of a warehouse, but I got a lease on my computer right now for another warehouse. We're fine. I mean, we've just grown to the point that we got to have one. We're doing tremendous business without it, but there's certain deals we just can't get into. Like,
Gotcha.
If we want to negotiate a deal for a 50 truckload package or 100 truckload package, which we've done plenty of that as we are, but we always get to the point when we're down to the last 20. And it's like, all right, who are we going to move these 20 to? Because if we don't have somewhere to ship it. Or we're pulling favors with our network. Hey, can I ship 5 trucks to your facility? Blah, blah, blah. And we're just at the point that we're bigger than that at this point.
Yeah.
So we're the business model will there expand a little bit more. So we're really at an inflection point.
Oh, that's really cool. So when do you expect that customer facing or like public facing software to launch?
You're asking the questions that I don't want you asking to.
Okay.
Honestly, I gave up on forecasting launch dates about a year ago because we just never hit them. Now, what we have done here recently is, we're fighting going into Jira and actually managing agile development, in a sprint format. And I mean, we're doing sprints, but they weren't really sprints. Like, they weren't real well documented. And we now have just fully gone into it. I mean, we're fully operating out of the software. We very clearly are defining scope for every little piece of an overall sprint. We're tracking, as things are getting done. Are we meeting the sprint deadlines? Because we just finally got to a point that I finally just told the dev team, I said, look, guys, I really don't care if you sandbag like crazy and just just set a goal to finish this one thing and get it done in an hour. I don't care if you sandbag that bad and we call it a 2-week sprint. I just need to get us to where we are accomplishing what we set out that we're going to do.
Yeah.
Like, we say we're going to do something, we got to accomplish it. And then we can ratchet it up from there. But we just got to get a system in place that holds us accountable. And so we're on, I think, our 3rd sprint since we've gotten into that model. And the first sprint, they didn't sandbag, even though I thought they should. They didn't, and we missed it by like 10%. The second sprint, we completed all except for a little bit of leftover QA. The third sprint, we're on track to complete it all. There's only a little bit of question about some of the carryover QA that we got to complete. So, I mean, it's learning how to get those processes in place. And software dev is just so hard because it's so much different than just a normal or our normal business. It completely different skill set, completely different management structure. I mean, it's crazy. And then once we finally launch it, we'll start getting customer feedback loops, and that's probably going to throw us all off again, and we'll have to reset.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of business. It's learning. If you don't get outside of the box, you're never going to grow.
Right. When you switched business models to the truckload only, how did you get those first truckload customers?
Man, it was really just consistency until I found somebody gullible enough to trust me that then I could. I mean, in all reality, it was the consistency of posting in our Facebook groups. And
so you'd already had the Facebook groups at that point when you switched business models? Okay.
Yep. And being proactive. Well, I mean, realize when I started, I knew I needed to switch business models probably 3 months before I did it, or 4 months. So I started the Facebook groups and started posting every day, probably 3 months before. Like because I knew what we were doing was not going to continue, or not in its current form. And so I knew I had to do something else. And I didn't know anything else to do, but hey, I'm just going to start a consistent habit.
Yeah.
And, and hopefully it pays off.
Huh.
And it did. So no, it was more consistency. And I think once our groups had enough members, people, all that, now I don't think this method works, at least not in our industry today. I don't think it works. Maybe I'm wrong. But there's a lot of people that have tried to duplicate it, but it hasn't really worked out as well for them as it did for us. The groups just haven't exploded like ours did. I do think there's some specific reasons for that, but I also just think we timed it really well.
Yeah.
It wasn't on purpose. It just was happenstance, which keep swinging the bat. Eventually you're going to get lucky and hit.
So you built out a good community there in the Facebook groups. Have you expanded that community into any other platforms?
So we haven't. That's actually a growth area. So one of the places that I think we are lacking as just an overall team is getting a head of marketing, and having somebody who can oversee just the marketing across the board, whether it be software, on social, for our truckloads, pallets, whatever it is. And they don't have to do all the work, but they do need to have a vision, and they have to manage the team. And that team could be a team of remote team members. I don't care who it is.
Right.
We just need somebody to have the oversight. And we just haven't found that right person yet. I mean, part of the issue is we're investing so much in the software, that it's not like we just have just crazy money sitting to the side. Let's just hire this person.
Yeah.
But started looking, started putting feelers out. But that's where I think one of our next inflection points will come from. I think our software is one. I think when we open the warehouse, that's another. I think when we actually get the right person in marketing, that's going to be a big boost for us.
Yeah.
A really big. We have not expanded. I mean, and that's a concern. I mean, we started an effort towards SEO.
Okay.
And we started that probably 6 months ago, 8 months ago. We got a long way to go there. I mean, we know that. Our website's 100% CSS, HTML. So, we don't have the ability to go download the Yoast plugin for SEO. We gotta build all that ability into our website ourselves. We didn't have a CMS. We had to implement Strappy. We didn't, so I mean, there's been a lot of build out that, honestly, had I understood that when I made the decision to go that route, I probably would have gone the other route.
Right.
But it's just taking some time to get our SEO where we need it and to where we can build upon it. Now, I think we have a great structure moving forward. It's 100% adaptable to whatever we want to integrate with software or whatever. So long term, I'm happy with where we're at.
Yeah. That's always the trade-off when people are looking at, hey, do we build a custom site from the ground up or use WordPress or some other popular platform? Because you do get the benefit of all the plugins that are pre-built little features or little things that can improve your business model kind of overnight, supposedly. But a lot of times it bloats your website, causes other issues, security problems. And I think especially developers always prefer to build from scratch so they can control everything.
Yeah, scalability too.
Yeah.
I mean, with our vision, if we would have gone with WordPress, the server it was hosted on would have blown up very quickly.
Right.
So, I mean, I would say if we were financing it with debt, I would have made a lot of different decisions. I would have gone for the cheap WordPress right off the bat. I would have gone for some of those to get the customer base in place to then we could upgrade. We had the privilege of a cash flowing business, and the opportunity to use it to reinvest in itself. And so we did.
So I normally would go through like a rapid fire of, all the different technologies and whether or not you're using it, but it sounds like you're literally just on Facebook, or are there other things that you guys are using?
Dude, no, really just on Facebook, and then trying to get SEO rolling.
Yeah.
Our software is going to be what we think. I mean, we're building an ecosystem is what we're building. And not that I'm suggesting that everybody do that by any means. We just thought it was the right move for our industry. And we're taking a flyer on it, man. It's just as much of a defensive play as it is offensive. And it is super expensive, but at the same time, if it works out, it could be a really big deal. And if it doesn't, then we lost a bunch of money. We'll continue to use it, right. But it is what it is.
So
but not a lot of insight on the others. As a matter of fact, if anybody wants to reach out and give me the insight, that would be awesome.
And hey, me and you can talk afterwards. Maybe we can help out with our agency or something.
Good. Yeah.
So all the other social platforms and everything, that's for later for you. Are you doing any traditional marketing stuff, like outside of the digital side, like any kind of other advertising?
With our warehouse, we're going to sell some pallets out of our warehouse.
Okay.
So we will look a little bit more local with that, but we're still not going to do like billboards or anything like that. Yeah. Anything we do is going to be digitally based. We're going more down the content route.
Yeah.
When we started talking, I said, man, I actually am interested in doing a podcast for our industry. And I am. I mean, a couple times you've probably seen this little blue tape on the floor behind me back there.
There you go.
That's one of the pegs of my lighting goes when I'm sitting in that blue chair. Like, I have a video studio set up to do it. We just haven't started yet. And so we're going the content route to produce good videos. A lot of times people are like, well, what do I expect in a pallet off of a Target customer return truckload? Right. Why don't we just video us breaking down a pallet and show you?
There you go.
Right. And so we're looking at doing more of that type of stuff.
Oh, that's smart. Because you can use some SEO tools and see what questions people are asking related to whatever it is, you guys, your service is, and then just answer them one video at a time, each question.
100%. As well as if we're doing the product breakdowns, then, why not just add that video for that specific listing on our website? Like, you interested in a truckload? Well, here's some pictures of sample pallets, but here's an actual video.
That'd be huge.
So, other things we can do with the content too, but at the end of the day, about creating clarity for the customer. What are you getting? What are you expecting? And then holding our feet to the fire. A lot of people that kind of grow in the business model that we grew in, a lot of people like to just kind of shy away from any responsibility. Like, oh, well, I just brokered the load. I made $300. There's a problem with it. I'm sorry. I only made 300. I'll give you 300.
Yeah.
Well, okay, then tell me who your supplier is. Oh, I'd never tell you that. Well, so how am I supposed to how am I supposed to be made whole? Right. And so, that's not how we operated. Never has been. We're going to hold our feet to the fire.
Yeah.
And it's not our customer's responsibility to go to our supplier. It's for us to take care of our customer, and then we'll go to our supplier. I don't know how I got on that.
No, that's good. That leads into kind of my final question and how we can wrap up here. This has been great. It's been awesome getting to reconnect with you and hear about all the things you've been doing. Let's say there's like 1,000 of your ideal target customers listening. What's the pitch or the reason they should use your service? What's that sale pitch you would give them?
Man, it really are. There's a couple things. We made our company slogan, always delivering value. We mean that in a couple ways. Number one, we're going to deliver you good value for what you paid from a retail value perspective. We do it also if people are like, hey, do you think this would be good for my business? So like advice. We do it in education. So we frankly want long-term relationships with our customers. We want them to make money. We want to leave money in the deal for them to make. And we want to help them grow a successful business. There's plenty of people in this industry that like to look at their customers or potential customers as if they have a target on their back. They want to try to figure out how much money can I make off that person. That's just not us. So that would be the first thing. Our second thing we put in every marketing, or all of our marketing material is as described, or we'll make it right. And at the end of the day, we hold our feet to the fire on that. I think our Google reviews speak volumes. I don't remember how many we have, but I know we're at like a 4.9 something. I think it only shows 4.9, but I don't even know if we have a negative one on there. And it's because we take care of our customers. So, there's enough risk in the liquidation industry. So my pitch to them would simply be, outside of what I've said, is there's enough risk. Why are you going to take a risk with working with somebody that you have question marks about, like from a supplier standpoint? Pick someone that has proven to be dependable, reliable, and delivering good product. There's not some secret source. And if there is, you got to be moving so much volume that at that point, the secret source really doesn't change your numbers or business trajectory. So it's like everybody thinks they're going to get in and find a bunch of PlayStations for next to nothing, or Air Jordans for $5. And honestly, I say that jokingly. But that is the pictures that scammers post. And people fall for it. They think they're getting a pallet of Air Jordans for $55. And it's like people fall for it all the time. And it's like, guys, that's not the industry. So
that'd be like winning the lottery almost, like that, the odds of something like that.
I always tell people is if you're searching for the secret source, here's what's going to happen. You're going to talk to every seller that is trustworthy, that you can count on, that's going to say and actually tell you, well, no, here's what you should expect. They're going to tell you the real information, but you're just going to not think it's good enough. And so you're going to keep searching until you find that scammer that's going to tell you exactly what you want to hear. And then you're going to get scammed. Now, I hope that in that scenario, you learn your lesson on a $50 expense. I hope it's not a $10,000 one. But at the end of the day, it's the dependability, man. That's the reliability. It's delivering what we say. That's why people should work with us.
I think that's a really good point that I haven't heard said quite in that way before, about people will almost search for the scam that tells them exactly what they want to hear. Like they're looking through things until they find the scam that's telling them what they want to hear. And that's how they get scammed.
So in our business, Parise, the common question that somebody new coming in is our business is very contract based. You'll go sign a contract with Target that you will get all the truckloads coming out of this distribution center for the next 2 years, and you will pay X amount of dollars per pallet. All right. That's how the contracts are based. And so the new people coming in are like, I'm going to buy from the contract holder. Well, all those scammers, guess what? When you ask them, are you the contract holder? Absolutely. Absolutely, I'm the contract holder, for sure. And then they talk to somebody who's trustworthy, and like us, a lot of times we'll be like, no, we're not the contract holder on that. But what's funny is a lot of times my price, I know who the contract holder is. We buy from them. And the funny thing is that the price I'll sell it to that person for is cheaper than what they would get from the contract holder, because we're buying in volume and we're passing some of the savings on. But they just have it in their head they have to buy from the contract holder, so they pass over us and go try to find the secret source and get scammed.
So they just don't fully understand the industry.
That's how it manifests in our industry. And I would imagine it's the exact same way in other industries around there. It takes its own form in that industry.
By you following the kind of best practices or the right way, or being transparent, you're going to turn off the people who are looking for that overnight success or 1 in a million lottery situation.
Which is double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I mean, the good news is that it's those people that are probably looking for the lottery. So when they actually get something that's realistic for the industry, those are going to be the ideal people to complain and say they were scammed.
Right.
So we kind of turn those people off. But on the flip side, I mean, it does kind of stink in the fact that, I mean, that's business, and it's someone who's legitimately going to buy something, and if they would just take a step back and think logically, they'd kind of see that we're telling them the truth, and we could build a relationship with them that could be years long, where we are setting them up to make money.
Yeah.
And taking care of them along the way. And so it does kind of stink in the fact that I'd love to be able to secure that business because it's mutually beneficial.
Right. Because if you can help make your target customers, because their businesses basically are kind of a B2B at this point, if they're buying a truckload, and if you help them through your educational content or whatever it is, or giving them realistic prices and not being that like 1 in a million lottery situation. Like if you help them make their businesses better, you're going to have a long-term customer, and you both kind of grow, and there's a little give and take in there.
All the time. I don't care that you buy from someone else. I'm not the person that's going to be like, oh, you're buying from them? Well, then we're done. That's not me. And there's people in our industry that try to act that way, that like, you don't go buy from anyone. I don't care who you buy from. I want you to make good money, whether you buy from me or buy from someone else, because as long as your business is profitable, I know we are doing a good enough job on our end to offer enough variance in what we offer, enough diversity in the loads that we offer, and we're always pricing them at reasonable prices. So I know that if I can just help in some small way that someone's business is around for the next 10 years, at some point they're going to buy something from us.
Yeah.
It may be 3 years down the road. That's cool. I'll be like Johnny Appleseed, man, planting seeds every day.
Yeah.
And at some point they'll sprout, and that's cool. And that I'm okay with doing that. It's a long-term vision. It's a long-term play, and we plan to be around for a long term.
Awesome. Well, Matt, this has been great. Appreciate you taking the time, sharing all the ups and downs of business. I think this is a real kind of raw look at entrepreneurial life, and doesn't always go the right way, but it sounds like you've learned a lot of hard lessons through it all and got a really solid business going now.
Man, we're excited for the future, and I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll have our challenges along the way. We're by no means past that, but we're going to try to keep our smile and keep our positive attitude and just serve our customers.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Matt.
Absolutely, Priest. I appreciated catching up. Thank you.